Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we are wrestling with quite a question, one that really highlights the tension in today's markets. Is critical metals core a good time to buy right now? The stock, critical metals, is just a perfect example, isn't it? You've got this massive future potential story, pure momentum.
Right.
Smashing head-on into some very traditional financial skepticism. We've got this pile of conflicting analysis, and, well, our mission today is to sort through it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you, the listener, can understand exactly what you might be getting into here, the risks and the potential rewards.
And before we properly jump in, just that quick reminder, it really helps us out. Please subscribe, like this discussion if you find it useful, and definitely leave a comment below. Oh, and if there's a specific company you want us to analyze in a future show, just drop the ticker symbol in the comments. We'll get our research team right on it. Okay, so let's frame this mission. We've got these incredibly bullish, short-term quantitative forecasts, basically screaming massive upside potential.
Almost unbelievable numbers, yeah.
But then, when we try to look under the hood, using standard financial checks, the data is either just not there or it looks fundamentally pretty weak.
That's the core tension, exactly. And it immediately makes this stock highly speculative. It's not just about, say, weak fundamentals. It's a transparency issue that really bumps up the risk profile. So our goal is to synthesize all this, lay it out so you understand the specific potential rewards, yes, but also the very, very real dangers involved. This isn't, a buy and hold and forget kind of stock.
Not at all. More like a trade you'd need to watch constantly.
Hour by hour, potentially, yes.
All right, let's start with the story then. Because critical metals core, they do have a great narrative. Right sector, right time.
Absolutely. They're in the metals and mining sector, and the tailwind behind them is just undeniable right now. You've got this huge global demand for critical minerals.
This stuff needed for clean tech, EV batteries,
yeah,
all that energy transition infrastructure.
Exactly. That's where capital is flowing globally. So the sector itself has a lot of investor focus.
And their main assets, what are they focusing on?
The big one is the Tanbreez rare earth deposit. That specific focus rare earths, feeding into clean tech, it really puts them in the sweet spot for attracting, high-risk capital and a lot of media attention.
It sounds like the perfect story stock for where the market's headed. But okay, we have to tackle that huge red flag you mentioned right at the start, the opaqueness risk. Why is it actually so hard to verify their financial health?
Yeah, this is the main hurdle for any conservative, long-term type of investor. Our fundamental analysis confirms it. Key regulatory documents.
Like the 10Ks, 10Qs.
Exactly. The things that detail revenue, earnings growth, net debt, free cash flow, basically. The stuff that proves a company is a real functioning business. You just can't verify that from official U.S. SEC filings.
And maybe for listeners who don't deal with SEC filings every day, why is the lack of a 10K or 10Q such a big deal? Why does that raise the stakes so much?
Well, because those documents are the bedrock. They're the standard for regulatory assurance in the U.S. market. They contain audited financial data, detailed management discussions. It's how you verify a company's health and growth under, proper regulatory scrutiny. When those are missing, you're basically relying much more heavily on things like press releases, company presentations, maybe unaudited statements.
It's like buying a house just based on the realtor's glossy brochure.
Exactly. Without seeing the actual inspection report. It forces the entire investment case into the realm of speculation rather than grounded analysis.
Okay, so acknowledging that massive caveat, let's look at the financial snapshot we can sort of piece together. Mostly thanks to AI scoring tools that pull whatever data they can find. Are there any, glimmers of hope? Any green shoots?
There are some modest positives, yes. Things like cash per share, the cash they started the period with, and a metric called cash return on cash invested, CROCI, those are showing up as positive.
CRCI.
Yeah, it's a profitability metric, basically shows how much cash flow they're generating relative to the cash they've put in. So seeing positive numbers there, it does contribute maybe modestly to the probability of outperformance. And liquidity, cash on hand, looked okay in the most recent quarter.
Okay, so not completely barren. But what about the underlying value, the actual substance?
Well, that's where the counterbalance really hits hard. Tangible shareholders' equity is actually slightly negative, meaning if the company were, say, liquidated tomorrow, there's essentially limited net asset value backing up the shares for common stockholders. It suggests the liabilities outweigh the tangible assets. And we also see that analyst sentiment on earnings has been, well, a bit of a headwind. Recent earnings per share estimates are still negative.
The company's still burning cash, not reliably making money from its operations yet.
That seems to be the picture, yes.
Yeah.
Consuming capital.
Okay, if the core financials are that soft, what about their position in the market? Do they have some kind of competitive edge, a moat, over other mining companies?
Not that we can see clearly from the current data. I mean, the macro trends for the sector are good, definitely. But the company itself doesn't really demonstrate a strong defensible advantage or exceptional dominance compared to its peers in the mining space. They have the asset claim, sure, but not yet the proven, sustained financial edge from it.
Right. And finally, ownership. You mentioned institutional ownership is lower than average. In a stock with, let's say, opaque fundamentals, that usually screams risk.
It absolutely does. Lower institutional ownership means you lose that sort of stabilizing force. You don't have those big, steady funds holding large positions and potentially acting as a floor under the price. But, and this is really crucial for understanding the whole picture here, that absence of institutional anchors actually amplifies the potential for these explosive speculative surges, the kind driven purely by news flow and market sentiment.
Okay, so it makes the stock more nimble, reactive.
Exactly, which is precisely what a short-term, momentum-focused trader might be looking for. Less institutional baggage means it can move faster on hype.
Okay, right. Now we pivot. We go from this pretty skeptical view based on fundamentals, or lack thereof, to the part that is, frankly, baffling. If the books are murky and the assets aren't generating steady profit, why on earth are the quantitative models not just positive, but screamingly bullish? Let me just throw the number out there again because it's staggering. Predictive modeling, as of October 19th, 2025, projects a 48.49% upside for critical metal stock. Over the next month, I mean, how can any model predict almost 50% upside on what looks like shaky ground?
It is the ultimate contradiction, isn't it? And the key is that these quant models, they're almost completely detached from the balance sheet reality we just discussed.
They don't care about the 10K.
Not directly, no.
Yeah.
They're focused on things like momentum indicators, the stock's price action patterns, the velocity of news flow, social media sentiment sometimes. They're mathematically confirming that speculative drive is dominant right now. And Danilfin's data backs this up too, showing a pretty notable 45.19% probability advantage of this stock beating the S&P 500 over the next 3 months.
So it's predicting market behavior, not necessarily underlying company value.
Precisely. Think of it that way. The quant edge here is significant because the price chart itself over the past year actually confirms this pattern. You see volatility, yes, but it's consistent with higher lows and higher highs.
The classic technical uptrend signature.
Exactly. It shows aggressive accumulation. Buyers stepping in, likely based on excitement and future promise, not on audited financial reports.
So the stock is basically behaving like a hot rumor that everyone's buying into. The technicals, the price momentum, they're just completely overwhelming the fundamental picture right now.
It's an indisputable technical play at this moment, yes.
Which then leads to the next logical question. What specific concrete news is the market reacting to? What's creating this intense momentum if it's not earnings? Let's dig into what's actually fueling this fire. If the traditional financials are weak, the stock needs some serious news injections to justify that kind of quantitative forecast.
It absolutely does. And the recent news has been exactly what you'd expect for this kind of play. Aggressive, maybe high risk, capital raises, and strategic deals to keep the story going. Specifically, two pretty big PIPE financings, that's private investment in public equity, hit the news wires in September and October.
Okay, hang on. Let's just quickly explain PIPE financing for everyone. What is it, and why does the market often react so strongly?
Sure. So PIPE is basically when a company sells stock, or sometimes options or warrants, directly to a select group of accredited, usually institutional investors. It's done privately, often at a bit of a discount to the current market price.
And the market sees this as?
Often, the market takes it as a positive signal, like, oh, smart money, institutional players are willing to put cash into this company. It suggests conviction. However,
There's always a however.
there usually is. Historically, PIPE financing can also be a way for companies that might struggle to raise money through traditional bank loans or follow-on public offerings to get cash quickly. It can sometimes signal they needed cash, maybe urgently, so it cuts both ways. But in this case, Critical Metals announced a $35 million PIPE with a new institutional investor. And then, hot on its heels, a really major $50 million PIPE announced just recently, October 16th, 2025.
Oh, that's $85 million flowing in quickly.
Exactly. These deals significantly shore up their cash position, at least for a while, and they satisfy the market's hunger for signs of progress and validation, even if the underlying operational cash flow isn't there yet. It feeds the momentum beast.
That's serious cash, definitely fueling the momentum.
Hmm.
Okay, beyond just the money, what about strategically? Are they making progress linking their assets to actual market?
They have made a key move there, yes. They managed to secure a 10-year offtake agreement,
An offtake agreement,
meaning a long-term contract to sell a portion of their future production. In this case, it's for 15% of the Tanbreeze production, and the buyer is a company called Realloys.
okay, so that provides some kind of long-term revenue visibility.
Yeah.
Locks in a customer.
Theoretically, yes. It links their main strategic asset directly into the rare earth supply chain. The market digests that as, guaranteed future income down the road. Even if production hasn't fully ramped up yet, it strengthens the story.
Right. So for you, the listener, if you're considering a short-term trade based on those wild quant forecasts, what are the absolute key dates or events you need to have circled on your calendar over the next, say, 3 months?
Okay, definitely mark November 1st. That's when their Q3 earnings report is expected. Now, given the opaqueness, we might not get full clarity, but any insight into their operational cash burn rate will be absolutely critical.
Any surprises there could really move the needle.
Hugely. Then, November 15th, there's an institutional investor meeting scheduled. These kinds of meetings can sometimes lead to further announcements, maybe new partnerships, maybe more financing news, something to watch.
And December.
December 15th is a big one, ETF rebalancing. Depending on whether Critical Metals gets included or excluded from major market indices or sector ETFs, you could see significant buying or selling pressure just from that mechanical rebalancing. It can move the price violently, regardless of news.
Good flags to watch. And finally, the rumor mill. This sector, critical minerals, rare earths. It seems to thrive on buzz, whether it's confirmed or not.
Oh, absolutely. It's part of the speculative nature. Rumors are definitely circulating. Things like potential expanded offtake agreements, maybe with even bigger players in the rare earth processing world.
Were deals like the Realloys one.
Potentially, yeah. And there's always the background chatter, the speculation about potential acquisition talks. Could a bigger mining company swoop in?
Now, completely unconfirmed, obviously.
Completely unconfirmed. Need to stress that. But these kinds of rumors are precisely the fuel that short-term momentum traders feed on. They can cause sharp, temporary spikes, totally disconnected from any verifiable earnings or fundamentals.
Okay, so we've kind of come full circle now. We have this clear sector tailwind, these major cash injections fueling momentum, strong quant signals. But underneath, this almost total lack of verifiable fundamentals and significant opaqueness. So, pulling it all together, what's the synthesized rating? For you, the listener, trying to decide, buy now or steer clear.
Okay, so synthesizing these, just wildly contradictory data points, it leads us to an overall bullish rating, actually, an 8 out of 10, but, and this is the most important qualifier,
Huge but.
a huge but. This rating is strictly reserved for speculative traders and investors with a very high tolerance for risk.
Right, so if you're coming at this from a conservative angle, long-term focus, relying on audited SEC data, the rating would be much, much lower, maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10.
Oh, easily. Yes. For traditional investing diligence, this stock currently fails many basic checks due to that transparency gap. However, you just can't ignore the strength of the quantitative models and the technical momentum right now, at least in the short term. So the analysis is pretty clear. The most attractive window here seems to be for high-risk, short-term trading, aiming to ride that momentum wave, perhaps within a 1 to 3 month time frame.
The final application seems simple then. Know your time frame. Understand you're trading price action and news flow here, not necessarily intrinsic company value.
Precisely. And that leads directly to the final warning. Any sign that the narrative is cracking, maybe a failed financing round down the line, disappointing news on the offtake front, or even just a broader market shift away from risk asset sentiment could just collapse very, very quickly.
The volatility cuts both ways.
Exactly. The high volatility risk that comes with this kind of speculative trading means the potential losses can be just as explosive as the potential gains you're chasing. So, as you think about whether to jump into this momentum trade, here's maybe a provocative thought to mull over. If Critical Metals Core keeps relying mainly on these high risk, high PE deals and strategic announcements to generate excitement, if they continue to avoid building and, crucially, disclosing verifiable SEC level fundamentals, how long can this powerful technical momentum actually sustain itself? At what point do serious investors or just the market overall start demanding real, verifiable financial transparency?
That fundamental tension, that gap between the speculation and the substance, that really is the entire investment thesis right here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this analysis today. And remember, staying informed about the specific risk versus reward profile of every position you consider is absolutely key.